There's a few things that I never do on this channel. First, I never speak to the audience, but this is for a greater cause, so I'm willing to break that first rule. Second, I never use background music. Third rule, no sponsor or publicity. But this video is part of the Great Guitar Build-Off competition, hosted by Crimson Guitars based in the UK. This is a friendly competition that allows YouTubers and makers to showcase their creativity by building a guitar. The competition's goal is to raise money for different charities across the globe. So head off to greatguitarbuildoff.com to learn more about the initiative. Now, before I break more rules like the incorrigible outlaw that I am, let's go to the build. When Crimson contacted me, I had to decide if I would go for a kit build or a scratch build. And I've had the idea of making a guitar out of one piece for a long time. Well, I've been making guitar for a year and a half, so that's a lie. Let's say that I've asked myself once or twice how hard it would be to make a guitar with no neck joint. This was the perfect occasion to try it out. And that's why I'm not making a kit build. Because building a guitar out of one piece with two pieces is very hard. I chose to work with a slab of cherry wood, because it was the only board in the lumberyard that suited my needs. It's wide enough, it's vaguely tone wood, and I've never worked with that before. If I really had the choice though, I would have made this project out of walnut. Before removing the wood surrounding the neck and body, I took advantage of that nice flat surface and routed out the channels for the reinforcement bars and the truss rod. I suspected that the main challenge with this build was going to be the clearance over the bandsaw. So I drilled a few strategic holes around the guitar and then made a couple of cuts with the handsaw. This allowed me to maneuver the piece around the blade without too much safety hazard. This was rewarding because an hour before this shot, this was still an ugly board, and now it looks like a guitar from Minecraft. I just used the router and my one-piece template to get to the final line. I made this low-tech router sled specifically for this build. Here I'm using it to remove some wood around the neck area, and I'll take care of the rest of the top with the surfacing bit. I went for a Fender style headstock, because my stock wasn't thick enough to tilt the head to my usual 14 degree, and the scarf joint would have defeated the idea of a one-piece guitar. Here I'm removing the wood at the back of the neck and the headstock. I did try to do it on the bandsaw first, but it quickly seemed dangerous, and I do like my fingers very, very much. From this point on, the project really felt like making a simple neck through, and I'll switch to hand tools woodworking almost entirely to shape and carve the rest of the guitar. I usually do this step with a spoke shave, but I discovered that using a little block plane gives you those springy shavings, and they're kind of funny looking. I like to apply mineral spirit when I'm done working on an area. It makes the grain pop out and magnifies all the little scratches and dents that I might not have seen. Just so you know, I do have a grinder and a flap disc, but I never use them. You can call me old-fashioned, but I enjoy using my carving gouge and my mallet a lot more. I don't know, I find it relaxing. Also, try to play a polyrhythm with a grinder. Rule number 4. I do not sell anything, not even my guitars. To better understand that, here's my YouTube routine. Usually, when my strings need changing, instead of buying new ones, I just build a guitar. While doing so, I learn a few things along the way, I film the whole thing, put it on YouTube, and everyone's happy. This time is different. The guitar I'm building here could be yours, because it's going to be auctioned off on eBay. And all the benefits of the sale are going to be a donation to charities.
La poussière de lune, c'est la sciure qu'il y a par terre?
Oui.
C'est sale, tu sais.
Et je peux jouer avec. Oui.
Ouais, mais il faut pas le dire à maman.
The truss rod and the reinforcement bars arrived in the mail, and it was time to install them to stiffen the neck. The fretboard also came in the box. Here I'm cutting a little access hole for the truss rod adjustment. By the way, the only reason why I didn't make a cherry fretboard was because I read somewhere that it wasn't a good choice for fingerboards, because it is too soft for the fret tanks to hold on to. And since I'm that naive kind of guy who believes everything he reads on the interweb, I just glued the fretboard on. If you win the bidding, I think you should know that all 24 frets were pressed in by my 4.5-year-old daughter. But don't worry, I double checked. Or did I?
Qu'est-ce que tu fais?
Parce que j'ai pas de force.
Ouais, si.
J'ai de la force quand même.
Let's talk about rule number 5. I never ask the audience to quote-unquote comment, like, and subscribe. And this time is no exception. Although I'm just gonna ask you to share this video with anyone you know that is vaguely interested in guitars. Because, as I said, anybody will be able to bid on this guitar between the 1st and the 11th of June 2021. The bidding is going to happen on the Great Guitar Build-Off eBay page. Half of the benefits of the sale are going to the GGBO's own charity, and the other half is going to a charity that I chose. The one I chose is called Infirmiers de Rue. It's a Belgian non-profit organization whose name could be translated into street nurses. Their goal is to end homelessness by providing healthcare as well as rehousing solutions for the homeless people in 2 major cities in Belgium. And they've been doing that for 15 years now. I won't go into the details as to why this cause matters a great deal to me, but let's say that through my day job, I know for a fact that funding these types of organization never goes to waste. And it can actually change lives. If you cannot bid on the guitar, you can always go to their website and make a donation from there. The link will be in the description box below. Also, I grew up, live and work in Brussels, but there are organizations with the same goal everywhere around the world. So if it makes more sense to you, please consider making a donation to your local street nurses instead. Because of the carving on the front and the back, I don't have access to a flat reference anymore. So I had to do these roundovers by hand. When you touch the guitar now, there really is an organic feel to it.
Même ici.
Non, pas là.
Oh. La 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 la. La 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 la. La la la. Si on met tout ça dedans, ça va couler sur ton établi. Et après, demain matin, quand on va revenir dans l'établi, alors on aura plein d'eau dans notre maison.
Ouais. C'est vrai.
C'est vraiment de la vraie huile. On peut manger ta guitare.
There's something like 12 coats of true oil on this guitar. Why 12? I have no idea. I watched a dozen tutorial on True Oil and ended up with a dozen drastically different methods. Make up your mind, people. Anyway, I figured that since the guitar is going to travel, the more the better. Ten days later, I went back and knocked off the gloss with some steel wool to get a matte finish. And then I used the polishing compound to get to a satin finish again. Quick word about this wooden pickguard. Since the guitar doesn't have a neck pocket, I had to find a way to route a channel between the neck pickup cavity and the control cavity. And I didn't want to make a big control plate at the back, because I wanted to preserve the one-piece look, so this is what I came up with. Few people know this, but this is how pickup rings were made in the 15th century. And this is my take on this ancient, forgotten art. The knobs are asymmetrical on this guitar, the volume knob being larger than the tone knob. And that's because I wanted to stress the offset design of the guitar. Surprisingly, it didn't seem to bother anyone when I first posted it on Instagram. But the person who buys the guitar is gonna get an extra knob to make it symmetrical if she or he wants to. See, this is why I don't talk on my videos. It shows people how insecure I am about my artistic choices. In the end, what did I think of this build? Well, as you'll see in the beauty shots, it looks gorgeous from behind. It really feels like the guitar was carved directly out of a tree. Nature is beautiful, and I think that all guitars should display the natural beauty of the wood. But that's just my woodworker's opinion. Another advantage of the neck being one piece with the body was that I never had to ask myself, where did I put the neck again? I hope it's in a safe place. Which happens surprisingly often with my other builds. You've heard me freaking out about asymmetrical knobs, so now you know that I don't have the boldness yet to make a crazy guitar design with detachable smaller instruments on it, or a guitar with an animal face as a body. So this was my way of making something rare enough to be visually interesting. One might argue that it's a considerable waste of wood, and that would be true if guitars like this were mass-produced. But one thing you should know about my work ethics is that I don't believe in waste. I've learned woodworking mostly by working with scrap wood. Then when I felt confident enough, I started buying refs on boards. But I kept the habit of making projects with the offcuts, and then the offcuts of the offcuts. So don't worry, the remains of this guitar will become something. Someday. You could also think that it's tedious and not worth the effort. Well, not really. At times it was annoying to have the body in the way of the neck, and then the neck in the way of the body. But all in all, it just felt like a fat bottom neck through. I don't see myself making another semi-hollow body guitar anytime soon, and I certainly never make a guitar with one hand again, but I might want to do another one of those one-piece guitars in the future, because it was actually pretty fun and the end result is kind of unique. Plus, I do it a lot faster now that I know how. Okay, now rule number 6. I never put a sound demo at the end of a build video. I usually make the audience wait not a few weeks and publish a separate video when everyone's sick of waiting. Today I'll overcome my YouTube guitar playing stage fright because it's for a good cause. Before I leave though, I would like to thank Crimson Guitars for having me as a guest this year. I don't know if it was an intern's mistake that they somehow had to stick to, but that allowed me to play way out of my league. And I'm not even kidding, I've been following half of this year's lineup way before I built anything. If you haven't yet, you should definitely check out this year's main contest of the GGBO, where hundreds of amateur luthiers from around the world are currently making guitars that are just incredible, even more than in last year's edition. There's a playlist on Crimson YouTube page and it's compiling all the videos. I was part of last year's unofficial challenge and it amazed me to see how the contest brought us all together. So yeah, thanks for that too.